At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 300 programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio.
Let's ride! Woo!
Welcome aboard, 4 o'clock hour. Taylor Sharp here with you on a Friday edition of After Further Review. Filling in for Matt Moscona. We got 2 hours left in the work week. I'm Taylor Sharp. We got Paul O'Neill.
They're chanting Paul O'Neill's name.
And Jacob Beck. All right, we got 2 hours left for you here, as I was just saying here on this Friday. And, you know, I'm listening to SportsCenter there at the top of the hour. Ace Bailey is going to report to the Utah Jazz. For those who don't know, he did not want to go there at all, refused to work out for the team in the pre-draft process. They wound up taking him anyways, 5th overall. Apparently, his preferred destination was the Washington Wizards. I have to question the ability of anyone to process something. If their preferred destination is the Washington Wizards, that is the worst organization in the NBA, maybe the worst organization in professional sports. I don't know why the hell anyone would want to go to the Washington Wizards, but he is reporting to the Utah Jazz after all. Speaking of the NBA draft last night, the second round, and normally we would not talk about the second round at all, but the New Orleans Pelicans did have a pick, 40th overall. Look, yesterday we came in here, we broke it down heavily. A little bit of a recap for the first round, 7th overall. They take Jeremiah Fears, the point guard out of Oklahoma. Really excited about that. He's a drive point guard. He can get to the basket. He can get to the free throw line, and he can knock them down from the foul line once he get there. Then you trade from 23 up to 13 to get the big man out of Maryland, Derek Queen, the 6'10 power forward. We think he's going to play more 4 than 5, but 2 guys that are really good offensively. None of them are shooters. And me, Beck, Paul, when we were kind of breaking down, okay, what do you need to do with that pick in the second round? Pretty much across the board, it was some combination of shooting and defense. Well, they got the shooting part down because with the 40th overall pick, they took 6'7" forward out of Georgetown, Micah Peavy. When you look at Micah Peavy, 4-year player, so he began his career at Texas Tech. Then he transfers after that, goes on to play at TCU for 3 seasons before ultimately transferring to Georgetown last year, where he absolutely blew up. So for Peavy, his points per game his 4 years in college improved every single year, from about 5.5 to 6 to 7 to 10.9 at TCU back in 2024 to 17.2 points per game for the Hoyas this past season. 6'7" forward, but here's the biggest deal. He shot 40% from 3 last season. That's excellent. You get a guy that can score that volume, 40% from 3. Oh, and let's mention he gets about 6 rebounds per game, 3.5 assists. We also talked about defense. 2.3 steals per game last year at Georgetown did Micah Peavy have. So you got a guy that's a knockdown shooter from the outside. You got a guy that plays good on-ball defense, as it states there by his steal numbers. And you got a 6'7" player on the wing. We talked about wing players. We talked about shooting. from the outside. We talked about defense. The Pelicans do it all with this pick right here. Beck, you and I talked a lot about this yesterday of like, what we thought of the first round picks. We both kind of love the Jeremiah Fears selection. We like the player in Derek Queen. We don't like what the Pelicans had to give up. As far as Micah Peavy goes, like he was a guy, because a little bit yesterday I broke down maybe the top available players in round 2 that could have been there. And for what it's worth, Tyrese Proctor was there when the Pelicans made this pick, the 6'5" shooting guard out of Duke, who I mentioned a little bit yesterday, a really good shooter in his own right. They go with Micah Peavy. He's a little bit bigger. He can play on the wing. He has good defense. But like as far as this pick goes, you were telling me a little bit earlier, he's been on the radar for quite some time.
Yeah, so Troy Weaver, who's now the new general manager, he's underneath Joe Dumars, who's now the president, I think, of the Pelicans. But he was with the Wizards in Washington, D.C., so he probably saw a lot of Micah Peavy during that time. So obviously, a lot of times when guys are scouting players, especially if they're familiar with them and they've seen them a lot, they're just probably more likely to lean towards those guys because they just have more eyes on evidence of how good of a player they are. So not too surprising that there's a connection there, I would say. So he's a really, really solid player. I mean, for the 40th pick in the draft, I think this is pretty good choice for the Pelicans. I mean, you never expect a lot from second rounders, but you just never know. We've seen plenty of guys in the second round that have gone on to, obviously there's plenty of guys that have gone on to be really good players. There's some that end up, carving out a niche as a role player. So maybe Micah Peavy can be that guy that steps in on the second unit and can knock down some threes and really guard well. So maybe this is the guy. Yesterday I said maybe they're going to go out and get a guy, maybe try to challenge Jordan Hawkins' spot in that second unit. I think Micah Peavy can do that. He's got better size. I think he's a better defender. He's a better defender, and overall, I think he's just a better spot instead of having to put Jordan Hawkins on the floor. He's a little bit smaller, so he's going to have to probably guard the one on the other team. So he's got a little bit more versatility in your second unit there. So I think it's a good pick. Let's see what he does in the summer league and whether or not he can keep growing. As you said, he's gotten a lot better over his 5 years. Of course, he is 24, so he's a little bit older. So you don't know how much more he really can improve if his ceiling is that much higher. But I think it's a solid pick at 40.
I like the pick, but to your point, like you don't normally think you're going to get a game-changing player at 40 overall. But honestly, the more I look at which players went where, this is actually a pretty deep draft. We were talking about it yesterday. Like Rasheer Fleming coming into this draft was considered one of the best athletes in the draft. He doesn't even go in the first round. Now, he was the first pick last night in the second round, but Peavy goes in the second round. Tyrese Proctor goes in the second round. Kalkbrenner goes in the second round. Rasheer Fleming goes in the second round. All of these guys could have potentially went in the first round in any other draft. Looking back on this, I think this will be a little bit deeper of an NBA draft than most people think right now. But let's kind of break down the roster out there in New Orleans right now. So what you lost, obviously Brandon Ingram, you traded him. He plays for the Raptors now. You just got rid of CJ McCollum. You got rid of Kelly Olynyk. So you move off of those three guys. What you gained, Jordan Poole and Sadiq Bey come over in that trade where you got rid of McCollum and Kelly Olynyk. Now, Jordan Poole and Sadiq Bey are solid players. And, my knee-jerk reaction was, great, you traded CJ McCollum for CJ McCollum. But you got a lot younger, too. CJ McCollum, 34. Jordan Poole and Sadiq Bey, 26 years old apiece. You draft Jeremiah Fears, the second youngest player in this draft. He's going to be your starting point guard day one, in my opinion, especially with DeJounte Murray out with that injury. You get Derek Queen, a guy that can come in and be a physical presence. If he can improve that conditioning, which that's a big red flag for me for Zion Williamson, he could kind of fill the role of a Zion, because Zion only plays about 40% of the damn games anyway, so can you count on him? And then you get a really good 3-and-D, 6'7" wing player last night in Micah Peavy, something you needed. So that's what you gained since the end of the season. You lose Ingram, McCollum, Kelly Olynyk. Your returners, Zion, obviously, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Yves Missi, Jordan Hawkins, Jose Alvarado. There's a few more, but those are the 5 or 6 guys that are going to play significant minutes for you that were on your team a year ago. hoping that you don't make any more trades. Like, you could always trade some of these guys, but Yves Missi is going to start at your 5. I think right now that is pretty much set in stone. I don't think the selection of Derek Queen changes that. My hope is that Trey Murphy is somewhere in your starting lineup. If not, he's that 6th man role. I think it'll be either him or Jordan Poole starting at that 2 guard. Herb's going to be in your starting lineup. Zion's going to be in your starting lineup. And then that leaves you with Jeremiah Fears. So I think 4 of your 5 are locked down. Fears, Zion, if he can play, Herb Jones, Yves Missi. And then your 5th will either be Jordan Poole, Trey Murphy. Those 2 are kind of interchangeable to me. Doesn't really matter. We've seen Murphy play well in the starting lineup. We've seen him do really well off the bench. Kind of the same thing with Jordan Poole.
At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 300 programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
They're different players, but as far as their impact coming off the bench or in the starting lineup, they're kind of interchangeable. Sadiq Bey is going to play solid minutes for you. I think Peavy is going to play solid minutes for you. And Jordan Hawkins will be an extra shooter off the bench. Jose Alvarado is still going to be that defensive presence. He's essentially going to be the point guard 2. He's going to run that second unit offense. Look, you don't have a ton of all-stars on this team. I don't think you have any all-stars on this team outside of Zion, if he plays enough to get selected as an all-star. But Trey Murphy's a really good player who continues to get better. Herb Jones is a good 2-way player. Yves Missi had a really good season a year ago. Can Hawkins become the player you drafted? Alvarado, he's always going to be limited on the offensive side, but if he can give you anything on defense, that's a bonus. And then Poole, Sadiq Bey, Fears, Queen, like, you have a young collection of talent. How will they play together? But I like the makeup. I like the talent of this team. We'll see if it can be put together. We'll see what Willie Green's got. This is his last opportunity in New Orleans. As far as what I would grade this your draft, I like the selections. I'm going to go B- to C+, though, only because you gave up a ton to get up and get Derek Fears. Again, I like the player, or Derek Queen. I like the player. I do not like at all what you gave up to go get said player. Also, before we take a break, speaking of the NBA and basketball, former LSU guard Cam Carter did not hear his name called in the NBA draft, but last night he signed a summer league deal with the San Antonio Spurs. I think this is a good opportunity for Cam Carter. I think he's a talented player. He's 6'3". He's that combo guard. Shot the lights out for LSU last year. Averaged 16 points a game, but shot 42.5%, almost 40% from 3. Played in all 32 games. Was 4th in the SEC in total minutes. 33.2 per game. He was a very good player for you. He took over games at times. And I understand LSU basketball was not good at all last year. If you can imagine, they would have been even a lot worse without Cam Carter on the floor. So shout out Cam Carter, a Tiger joining the San Antonio Spurs. All right, we're going to take a quick timeout. When we get back, we're going to stay in New Orleans, but switch sports. We're talking New Orleans Saints with Ross Jackson next here on AFR.
AFR.
AFR is brought to you by the Watermark Hotel and the Renaissance Hotel, 2 beautiful hotel properties in Baton Rouge, the Watermark downtown, the Renaissance Southtown right there on Bluebonnet. And when it comes to hosting your event, both the Watermark and the Renaissance are perfect. The Watermark is a gorgeous, elegant spot in downtown Baton Rouge. That wedding reception, that smaller gathering, that meeting space, they can do it. They've kept so much of the history and tradition of that iconic building while modernizing it. The Gregory is a great restaurant inside of the Watermark as well. And then, of course, the Renaissance Hotel, Southtown, right there on Bluebonnet in Baton Rouge. It's more modern. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous hotel property at the Renaissance Hotel where they have meeting space that can accommodate up to 500 people, 7,000 square foot of meeting space, perfectly located right off of Bluebonnet and I-10. It's the Watermark and the Renaissance Hotels.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
brought to you by Shawbills Tire and Auto Service, ShawbillsTire.com. 18 locations in South Louisiana. Find the location nearest you at ShawbillsTire.com. Bumper-to-bumper auto service and name brand tires at wholesale prices. They will always find a way to get you the best possible price for the best possible tires on the road. That's what they do at Shawbills. And when they get you in by selling you the best tires at the cheapest price possible, they're going to treat you like family, and they're going to treat you so good you're going to keep coming back year after year after year every time you need anything for your vehicle. Tires rotated, oil changed, check engine light on, brakes squeaking, whatever's wrong with your vehicle, bring it to Shawbills. Let them give it the once-over. And you can always schedule online, so it's convenient. ShawbillsTire.com. Find the location nearest you at ShawbillsTire.com. Shop tires online at ShawbillsTire.com. Be sure to ask about the Shawbills credit card as well, because you can save $50 off your first purchase when you use the Shawbills credit card only at Shawbills.
All right, welcome back in a Friday edition of After Further Review. Taylor Sharp here with you, sitting in the big boy chair for our guy, Matt Moscona. He is out all next week as well. I will be in for you Monday, and then Matt Musso taking you the rest of the way next week. I teased it going into break there. We're going to go to New Orleans, covering the New Orleans Saints. Ross Jackson with Locked On Saints and writes for us right here at LouisianaSports.net. Ross, how are you this afternoon?
Hey, doing great, guys. Thanks so much for having me on. Glad to be here with you.
Absolutely. Ross, want to start at the position that everyone's looking at. So obviously the punter spot. No, I'm totally kidding.
I mean, hey, look, I can wax philosophical with some punters, man. Whatever you need.
Tyler Shuck and Spencer Rattler. Obviously the battle that everyone's watching. The good news is, Ross, I've read your articles, and it seems like a close battle, and for good reason, not bad, right? Like, none of them are going 0 for 12. They both actually look pretty efficient. Like, I know that we have a long way to go. We have an entire offseason. We have the preseason coming up. But right now, like, just prediction time. Season started today. Who takes the first snap?
Yeah, look, I think there's two answers here. Sorry to do this to you.
Oh, you're
good.
But
I do think that there's kind of the, like, who do I perceive to be ahead when it comes to OTAs and training camp and all those other things. You got to remember, not a single 11-on-11, rep seen by media. They didn't run those, all those kinds of things. And so we got to keep that in mind. No pass rush, no throwing lanes, all these other things. But really, when it comes down to who's going to be the starter week one, I think it comes down to who Kellen Moore decides is his guy. And look, when you draft a guy for the first time ever in the franchise's history in the second round, the highest drafted quarterback since Archie Manning in terms of the NFL draft proper as opposed to supplemental draft, I think there's no reason to not roll with the guy that you have decided is your guy unless he ends up being that far behind the curve. And it doesn't feel like Tyler Shuck is that far behind the curve. I think if I was picking a quarterback right now, I'd pick Spencer Rattler because I'd take the guy with the NFL experience. And to be honest, he's looked a little bit more clean in terms of processing, getting through reads through his progression, making good decisions, making quick decisions, all of those things. But, I mean, I don't see a reason why Kellen Moore wouldn't want to go with the guy that he designated effectively as his guy by selecting him in the second round, top 40 overall, with Tyler Shuck. And I don't know that the division, by the time that training camp is over, is going to be so steep that would be a bad decision. You know what I mean? The Saints are in a really good place here with two solid young quarterbacks. And so if I'm predicting, though, like where the Saints will go and who they will choose, I still feel like Tyler Shuck is very much in line.
As far as bringing in guys to be in your offense, Ross, the Saints have brought in a lot of running backs. Like, you went from having none to having, like, a crowded room right now. Obviously, AK's RB1. We know that. But, like, as far as behind him, like, what's the pecking order kind of looking like? Because you got a lot of bodies.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think this is one of the places where you also see a very wide-open competition. You've got Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck very realistically vying for a starting job. And I think that guys like Kendre Miller, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Cam Akers, rookie Devin Neal, Marcus Yarns, like Bayless Jones Jr. there. I just went ahead and named everybody. But, all those guys that are behind Alvin Kamara, they all have a real opportunity to be the guy behind Alvin Kamara. And that player that's going to be that sort of RB2, if you will, is going to have to be called upon quite a bit because we don't know when Taysom Hill's going to be ready for this team. And so with that taken into consideration, we got to remember Taysom Hill has been the second leading rusher on this team since Latavius Murray in 2020. Yeah, in 2020. And so they've got to find who that next guy is that's going to be able to produce alongside Alvin Kamara in that running back room. I think Kendre Miller has the talent to do it. He has the versatility to be able to do it as well. But I understand very much the appeal of a Devin Neal as a game breaker, a Clyde Edwards-Helaire as a versatile chess piece. Same thing for Bayless Jones. I see the appeal of a Cam Akers that could be a between the tackles runner and do a little bit of everything. And so I kind of put sort of maybe the bigger bodied guys like Kendre Miller and Cam Akers that could be more inside the tackles thumpers. I feel like those guys maybe have a little bit of an edge. So those are the ones that I'll be watching most closely. But I think, honestly, when it comes to Kellen Moore, it's not an archetype of saying, here's the role, try to squeeze the player into that role. It's going to be all about who's the best option and how do you make a game plan work for that best option.
Ross Jackson, our guest right now with Locked On Saints and LouisianaSports.net. Ross, before we move to defense, let's stick with the offense here a little bit longer. I want to look at the tight end room. You know, it's a room that a lot of people aren't talking about. You were wondering how heavily the Saints are going to invest in it in the offseason, but they give Juwan Johnson a contract. You still have Foster Moreau in that room. Like, where does the rotation look like right now?
Yeah, I think Foster Moreau as well as Juwan Johnson are going to be the top options in the room. We'll see. Like, I mean, I thought it was great. We've seen Foster Moreau out there. He was out during OTAs and mini camps. He wasn't participating, but he was there with the team and working with the position group in other capacities. He was just at tight end U as well out in Nashville, working with Travis Kelce and Greg Olson and Dallas Goedert and all these other guys that are out there. George Kittle as well. And so I think he seems to be trending towards potentially being available for training camp, which would be great for New Orleans. But we'll see, right? He had that kind of major knee injury late in the season, or a lower body injury late in the season last game. So we'll see. But I think him and Juwan Johnson are the top two guys in that room. And then I think Jack Stahl grabs a really important role too. He was in Kellen Moore and TJ Paganetti's run-heavy offense last year with the Philadelphia Eagles. He's a fantastic blocker, 4.6 speed. He can do some damage after the catch as well. I think he's got some underrated kind of value in the pass catching area. And so I see those three guys as kind of at the top of the position. And then you're wondering, who will be kind of either that top practice squad option, or if they keep a fourth guy on the roster because they don't have any fullbacks on the roster, where guys like Dallin Holker or Trayton Welsh or Michael Jacobson or Maliki Mataval end up kind of plugging in while they wait to see when they get Taysom Hill back out on the field.
Like, obviously, you have a lot of options, right? Like you just mentioned, look, Foster's the veteran. Juwan Johnson's a converted receiver. Stahl's more of the blocker. So, like, how do you think they're going to use the tight end in this offense? Like, is it like a splitting out wide? Is it more of a traditional tight end? Like, we've seen Kellen Moore be able to run pretty much any offense he wants, but, like, what's it going to look like in New Orleans?
Yeah, I think the Dalton Schultz, kind of Jake Ferguson, Dallas Goedert, kind of mobile mold of like what we would call, I don't really like it. I would say like F move is usually kind of the phrase with like the versatile tight end, but I don't know how much you're going to see Juwan Johnson line up in the backfield. You know what I mean? But I think a guy that lines up in line, in the slot and out wide, that kind of role is perfectly suited for Juwan Johnson, who, as you mentioned, is a converted wide receiver. And, of course, was one of the bigger investments that the New Orleans Saints made this offseason in re-signing him. So you might as well get him out on the field, right? And then Foster Moreau is a bit more do-it-all. You could have him on the field any down in any game situation as a blocker, as a route runner. He could be a good, tough guy over the middle of the field for you, which is great for these young quarterbacks. Jake Stahl kind of factors into that as well. And so I would probably see those molds kind of being where you would see these guys most utilized, like Foster and Jake Stahl kind of being more of the traditional inline Y tight end, while you have a guy with Juwan Johnson who could be a little bit more of a chess piece joker type of tight end that you can move kind of all over the formation.
Let's flip to the defense here real quick, Ross. Look, obviously, you're going to overhaul it. This was a defense that wasn't very good a year ago. You bring in Brandon Staley. If I ask you biggest area of concern during the offseason on the defense, what would that be?
Yeah, defensive line, right? I mean, that's got to be the top thing. The Saints, for the second year in a row in a 17-game season, were not able to eclipse the 40-sack mark, which is something they eclipsed every year from 2017 on up until they hit that sort of dry spell over the last couple of years. And so I think that's a part of it. You also saw the Saints 31st in the run game in terms of run defense last year as well. And you see a lot of that coming before contact. We talk about before contact. What we mean is getting moved by the offensive line in such a way that running backs are picking up 3-4 yards before the defenders are making contact with them, right? The congestion of the defensive line wasn't having that much of an impact. And some of that was game planning. Some of that was coaching. Some of that can be player related. It's not all on any one person's shoulders or one area's shoulders. But I think you're expecting that to get better this year. You've got returning players. You've got new players. You've got new faces. You've got great defensive line coach in Bo Davis, a focused edge rushers coach in Jay Rogers, which I think is really a nice thing because you can specify your communication and coaching to that position. And of course, Brandon Staley brings not just a new level of coaching and a new philosophy, but also a new defensive scheme as a whole that could potentially help them out too. So you're looking for a lot more one-on-ones this year with 5 down linemen. You're looking at a more aggressive pass rush, a more aggressive matchup being played in terms of pressure in the run game and everything like that too. So there's a lot of positives in terms of where the potential is for that defensive line, where there was the most concern over the course of the offseason. I still think there's going to be a lot of action at those positions when it comes to the 2026 offseason. So I don't think that the work is done here in 2025. But I think that was my biggest concern walking in and probably still my biggest concern right now before they head into training camp.
All right, Ross, well, before we get you out of here, let's end it on a positive note. We were talking about the biggest area of concern on the defense. Is there a spot on that side of the ball that stood out to you in a positive way?
I really like the secondary.
Okay.
And I don't mean to leave like the linebackers out of the conversation or anything like that. Like you're going to feel good when Mario Davis is on the field, right? Like that's kind of a given. But I actually, where you lost Marshawn Lattimore or traded away Marshawn Lattimore last year and then lost Paul Sadibo over the course of the offseason, there was a lot of opportunity to walk into 2025 and feel like, oh man, that position group, the secondary as a whole, corners and safeties really took a big hit. But honestly, Kool-Aid McKinstry has looked fantastic. Isaac Yiadom led the NFL 2 years ago in New Orleans in 2023 in forcing completion percentage for all corners that had at least 300 snaps in coverage. So you have really good veteran play there and somebody that's very familiar, having spent 2 other stints with Brandon Staley, including last year in San Francisco. Alontae Taylor getting back to the slot and getting back to being able to be the disruptor that he's so good at being in that star/slot nickel role. And then I really like the safety addition of Justin Fields. Justin Reed, excuse me. And so I thought maybe Will Harris was a pretty big loss for them over the course of the offseason. But getting Justin Reed in the building and getting another championship-minded safety, I think is fantastic next to Tyrann Mathieu. And a lot of young players in there, too, investing there with Jonas Sanker and Quincy Riley in the draft. Jordan Howden coming back for his 3rd year. There's a lot of good stuff that's happening there that maybe doesn't have like the top-end established NFL talent names, but has a lot of potential in its youth.
Ross Jackson, you can catch him at Locked on Saints and writes articles for us here at LouisianaSports.net. Ross, thanks for the time today.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you having me on. You take care. Stay safe. Talk to you soon.
Yep, absolutely. That was our guy, Ross Jackson, giving us all things black and gold. All right, we're going to take a timeout. When we get back, LSU baseball got not 1, but 2 left-handed pitchers yesterday. We're breaking it down next. This is AFR.
AFR.
If you are thinking about selling your home, maybe you've been on the fence, you've looked at rates and everything, like, if you do sell, can you afford to buy the next home? Listen, the market right now is en fuego. I was talking to Darren James over the weekend, and he was like, Matt, the start of 2025 is the best start we've ever had. I'm telling you, consumer confidence is back. It is time right now to check out Darren James. Agent225.com, agent225.com. Yes, in Baton Rouge, but all over. Like, I just opened this one up. This is a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo in Slidell that Darren's selling right on the water there on Harbor Drive. You can check it out, 129. You can check it out right now at agent225.com, agent225.com. Listen, buying, selling, commercial, residential, you need a realtor, you need the best, you need Darren James. 335-7666 or agent225.com.
Think real estate, think Darren James.
Shop early for July. After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
AFR is brought to you by First South Farm Credit. You know where to start. Your first call, your first visit, your first option when it comes to buying land in Louisiana is First South Farm Credit. And honestly, it doesn't even have to be land in Louisiana because First South Farm Credit can help you buy land in any of the contiguous 48. And they've got more than 40 branches in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. So if you're right here in the Southeast, there's First South Farm Credit locations all near you. But remember, like, for example, let's say a lot of our audience in New Orleans, of course. You're living in New Orleans, maybe you're starting to build a family, grow a family. You want to move to the North Shore like a lot of people do. You want to buy the 100 acres in Tangipahoa. You can. And First South Farm Credit can help because they have an office in Amite. So you can walk in there, you can do business with someone who talks like you, lives where you live, and help you buy land wherever you want to buy land in the contiguous 48. It's First South Farm Credit. If you're thinking of buying land, your first call, your first option should be First South Farm Credit. FirstSouthLand.com.
Welcome back in a Friday edition of After Further Review. Taylor Sharp sitting in for Matthew Moscona. I am in Monday as well. Then our guy Matt Musso is going to take you the rest of the week as Scone is on a much-needed vacation. He will be out all next week as well. All right, I teased it there a little bit going into break. LSU baseball, look, they're fresh off a national championship, but they have already hit the reset button. At least head coach Jay Johnson has. We know he is the king of the baseball transfer portal, as we have seen since his time here in Baton Rouge. Well, he's already making splashes. LSU gets not one, but two left-handed pitchers yesterday. So the first one he landed was North Dakota State left-hander Danny Lockenmeyer. Danny Lockenmeyer, we're going to come back to. The second pitcher he landed was actually from an SEC rival. He gets Tennessee left-hander Ryler Smart. So Smart did not pitch at all last year for the Volunteers. However, he was a top 200 recruit coming out of the state of Texas. He redshirted in 25 due to an arm injury. So that is something to look out for. But in the high school, he featured a fastball that was in the low 90s. He will not be draft eligible until he has played two more college seasons. That is the same with Danny Lockenmeyer. Speaking of Lockenmeyer, let's go back to him because we have a lot more to talk about in terms of pitching and what we've seen at the collegiate level. So I just mentioned that Ryler Smart did not pitch at all due to injury. Lockenmeyer pitched for the Bison, and he actually pitched pretty well. So he threw 38 innings in relief for the Bison a season ago, struck out 56 batters. Now, he came to Baton Rouge early in the year. You remember you played North Dakota State in one of those out-of-conference midweek games early in the year. He went an inning and two-thirds. He allowed 2 runs on 1 hit, but he did get 3 strikeouts against the Tigers. He struck out Ethan Fry, Luis Hernandez, and Derek Curiel. Yeah, guess what? Towards the end of the season, those 3 guys wound up being some of the best hitters on your baseball team. But I got this stat from Hunt a little bit earlier. Like, you can say, okay, 38 innings as a freshman, 56 strikeouts, that's great. From April 1st on, he threw 22 innings, gave up just 2 runs, 30 strikeouts, 3 walks. He dominated the competition that he played at North Dakota State. Is this guy going to come in and be a weekend starter for you next year? Is he going to be your Friday night guy? Probably not. There's a chance. I don't think so. But he's a solid arm from the left side, which you can always use more of. No matter how many lefties you have out of the pen, you could always use another one. And you add these 2 really good pitchers out of the transfer portal to a pitching staff that already returns a lot of talent. Okay, like for starters next year, like if I asked you, who do you want to be the Friday night guy next year? You're losing Cade Anderson, you're losing Anthony Irons. There are a lot of guys that have decisions to make. Zach Cowan has a decision to make. I expect Devin Sheeran to come back for another year. Didn't play at all because of injury. Gavin Guidry is going to be back. You have Cooper Williams, Maverick Rizzi, DJ Primo hopefully comes back to this team for another year. But if you ask me like who I want to see as the starter on Friday night, the first Friday of the year, it's Kason Evans. And I get it. He was so valuable a year ago out of the bullpen. You hate to do it. As your number 3 starter, your kind of de facto third starter towards the end of the year, he proved that he can do both. Now, maybe it doesn't work out long term. Like if you remember Zach Hess, when you made the run to the national championship in 2017, was your freshman closer. A similar role to what Kason Evans did for you the majority of the year. You tried to insert him as your Friday night starter the next year. It didn't work. A third of the way through the season, you took him out of your lineup, put him back in a relief role. He was great once again as your closer. But we've seen Kason Evans be successful in starting against good teams. Whether it was picking up in the rain delay in the game in Omaha, he started that one, he wins that one. Or, down the stretch, the back end of the SEC schedule before you get into postseason. Kason Evans was excellent. Could you go Zach Cowan? Again, another guy that was very valuable to you out of the bullpen. Now, he was a lot more dominant at the beginning of the season than he was at the end, but you had to start him in a game against Arkansas to get to the national championship, and he was nails. And he was awesome for you. It was one of his best outings of the year. Devin Sheeran, who I just mentioned earlier, who did not pitch all this year because of injury, he has a chance to come in and be a starting pitcher. Because the word was he was going to compete for that role a year ago before that arm injury. You have some relievers coming back. Cooper Williams, who I think could potentially work his way in the starting role as well. Maverick Rizzi is going to be a solid arm out of the pen. Hopefully DJ Primo comes back. You'll have Gavin Guidry. Can Gavin Guidry be your closer like he was before that injury? If not, and you don't want to start Zach Cowan, could Zach Cowan be your closer? Could Lockenmeyer or Ryler Smart come in and take that role? You have a lot of arms, and Jay Johnson's not done yet. You're going to need those arms up. Because when you look at the fielding for LSU, you lose some talent. Now, hopefully you get some talent back, but you lose some talent. As far as your infield, you lose the entire starting infield minus Stephen Milam. Because I think Daniel Dickinson's going to leave and go to the Major League Draft. Jared Jones is going to be gone at first base. I think Dickinson's likely gone. Michael Braswell's out of eligibility at third. As far as first base, if you can get Ethan Fry to return to campus, I like him there. I think he's plug and play. He's your next first baseman if he's on this team next year. As far as second goes, that's a question mark for me. Can someone on this team emerge that we didn't see a ton of? Will a freshman take that spot? Will he dip into the transfer portal? We'll have to see. At third base, you would think, okay, Tanner Reeves is coming back. He's going to slide in there. Maybe, but maybe not. Like you look at Tanner Reeves, batted last year as a whole, 262 in limited appearances. But he hovered around 200 in SEC play. Like when Michael Braswell was going through his struggles, everyone said, oh, we'll just pull him out and put in Tanner Reeves. Tanner Reeves wasn't hitting much better, and he wasn't quite the glove that Michael Braswell was over there at the hot corner. I mean, Michael Braswell made game-changing plays in the College World Series over at third. Another reason why I'm thinking it may not be Tanner Reeves, every single year that Jay Johnson has been here, a transfer player has played third base. So when he came over, he brought Jacob Berry with him from Arizona. Jacob Berry was a pretty good third baseman. He was an excellent bat in your lineup. He was there 1 year, went to the show. Then you bring in Tommy White. He was your starter for 2 years at third base. This past year, you moved Michael Braswell there from shortstop, who was also a transfer. He doesn't like to go with a lot of young guys there at third base. He likes experience there because he knows how important of a position it is over there on that hot corner. Do you trust Tanner Reeves enough, or do you have to go get a guy, a premier infielder that enters the portal and say, hey, that's the guy I want, let's bring him in? So depending on what they do in the portal, there's a chance Reeves doesn't come back. But right now, as of returning starters, Stephen Milam in the infield is the only one that you can chalk in there. The outfield should be good, though. You get Jake Brown back. Derek Curiel is going to be back on campus. I mean, your outfield's going to be pretty good. I'm happy with where that is. The catcher, Cade Beatty, should lock it down. So you're not done in the transfer portal. As a matter of fact, you're just getting started. And you already like the way things have shaped out. Whether it's in the field, your batting lineup, your pitchers, starters, relievers, you have a ton of options there. Jay Johnson is the king of the transfer portal. He has dominated it for multiple years now. And now, even before he even really gets started, you already have a pretty good team returning. And it's only going to get better from here. The LSU Tigers are going nowhere. They're going to be back in Omaha very, very shortly. Thanks to Jay Johnson, his recruiting efforts, and all the talent coming back on this team. in 2026. All right, we're going to take a quick timeout. When we get back, we're going to close out hour number 2 like we do every day with Tigers in the Pros. That's coming up on the other side here on AFR.
After further review.
GLO. GlowResources.com. GlowResources.com. Glow Resources, they are complete employer solutions. Get them by Glow Resources or go to GlowResources.com. If you're a business owner and you want to be more efficient, maybe you're really struggling to find the right person in your job at your place to make your business more efficient. Maybe you're struggling to find people who are responsible, people that show up on time, people that are efficient when they work. You ever had a job where you think, man, that should have been done in 2 hours and it takes 8 hours? Well, what if you had the right people to get that done? I'm telling you, Glow Resources can find them. And while their corporate headquarters are here in Baton Rouge, which I love about them, by the way, they've got offices in Miami, in Orlando, in Houston, in New Orleans, in the Golden Triangle, and they service businesses all over the world. So no matter where your business does business, if you need the right people, you need Glow Resources.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Michaels Fine Jewelry, lmfj.com, lmfj.com for Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. They're the best. If you are, gentlemen, thinking about popping the question and you're thinking about where am I going to go buy that diamond, I want you to consider this. There are places that will sell you man-made lab diamonds, but what are you buying? It's according to its makeup and characteristics, sure, diamond. But is it going to hold its value? Like, is that the way you want to say, I love you, I want to spend the rest of my life with you? Go to Lee Michaels. Go to Lee Michaels. Walk in the door. Experience the thing I talk about all the time, which is the Lee Michaels experience. It's Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry with 10 locations. Baton Rouge, 2 locations in Baton Rouge. New Orleans, Lafayette, Shreveport, Mississippi, Texas as well. 10 locations across 3 states. It's Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. Thrill her, gentlemen. Thrill her with a gift in the red box from Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry.
All right, final segment, hour number 2 here on a Friday edition of AFR. We got about 1 hour left. And before we get to that final hour, Jacob Beck taking us now with Tigers in the Pros.
Tigers in the Pros. They still bleed purple and gold. They're just really rich now.
What you got for us, Mr. Beck?
All righty. First one here. Let's see. Let's go take a look at the MLB scores. There was no LSU Tigers playing yesterday, except for the ones that played in the day games. We recapped those yesterday on Tigers in the Pros. So no MLB action. No LSU players at all played last night. There are no starting pitchers pitching today from LSU, unfortunately. So nothing from the MLB. The only thing I managed to find was actually you're going to laugh at me, but it is golf.
Let's back up. I laugh at you all the time.
Yes, I know, but you're of course gonna think this is funny. But we are going to the golf course. Yeah, there you go. And it's not even the PGA Tour. Actually, it is in fact
Live Golf.
It is, in fact, the Korn Ferry Tour.
I was about to say, if it's Live Golf Beck, I don't need Hump Palmer kicking down the studio door.
No, in fact, I don't actually think there's any LSU players on the Live Tour. Thankfully enough, there isn't.
If an LSU golfer joined the Live Tour, would Hunt Palmer pull for a new college team? I think he would.
It's possible. It's very possible. No, but we're going to the Korn Ferry Tour, which, for those who don't know, the Korn Ferry Tour is basically the G League or the AAA of professional golf, if you will. And there's actually a couple of LSU guys playing on the Korn Ferry. They've been playing pretty well also, for that matter. And the Memorial Health Championship in Springfield, Illinois, Ben Taylor, legendary LSU golfer. I don't know if I'd say that, but he was pretty good. Anyway, he is tied for 6th.
How long's he been Taylor?
Wow. Let's see. Where's the... I can't find
You don't have the rim shot.
I'm trying to find the buzzer because that was a terrible joke. Here we go. Yeah, well, I can't do it. It's on the same bar, but that's fine. Anyway, Ben Taylor tied for 6th at 9 under, and also let's see, where is he at? Hopefully, he makes the cut. It is looking for Trey Winstead. He also a former LSU golfer, was playing this tournament. Not sure if he's gonna make the cut or not, but let's see if I can find him. Trey, where are you at, Trey? not coming up for some reason. All right, anyways, that's it for Tigers on the Pros.
That's it.
Yes.
No Chicago Sky love.
I don't think so.
They
no.
They play in prime time, Beck, 9 p.m. Central.
All right. Well, yeah. How about
Chicago Sky?
Shout out to Chicago Sky.
Angel Reese,
Haley Van Lith. Yeah, they're going to play tonight, and they will probably lose because they stink.
Quick, what's the Chicago Sky's record?
They probably have less than 10 wins.
I have no idea. I'm genuinely honest. I don't know the Chicago Sky's
record. Let's go
record.
check the standings real quick. The Chicago Sky are 4-10. They stink.
It's not great.
No, they're bad.
So that's not what you're saying. Is right now they're not in the playoff picture.
No, they are not.
It's not great.
No.
All right, look, that's going to do it for hour number 2 of After Further Review. We got one more hour left in the work week. We're going to talk some New Orleans Saints. We're going to talk some LSU Tigers. They gave out an off-season award yesterday. I want to break that down a little bit. And we'll see where the rest of the show goes. There's a lot of things on the dock I want to get to. We'll close this show out with Ask Us, so get those questions in the chat when the bottom of the hour comes around. And we're going to have some fun here in hour number 3. We're trying not to hit that Friday wall. We're going to have a good one. Also, little recap, Ross Jackson, LSU baseball this hour. Stay tuned. We got 60 minutes left with you. We are working for the weekend here on a Friday edition of AFR.
After Further Review.
AFR is brought to you by Parish Restoration. Kill mold, remove odor, other harmful pathogens, commercial or residential. As a matter of fact, Parish Restoration, I love the process, by the way. If you go to the website at parishrestoration.com, you can see videos of their patented non-toxic dry fog treatment. So you see exactly what it looks like. Very cool. But they have fogged, over at Parish Restoration, they fogged one of the largest buildings in the entire state of Louisiana. So it doesn't matter if it's your office building, your church, whatever it may be, school, or your home. They can even fog your car. Maybe your car has a weird odor, musty smell. Maybe you bought a used car from a smoker and you can't get that smoky smell out. This will do it. They'll come while you're at work, fog it by the time you're done with work for the day. Boom, you're back in a clean smelling, fresh smelling vehicle. It's Parish Restoration. Learn more at parishrestoration.com. Parishrestoration.com. Do business with someone you know. Parishrestoration.com.
Are you